Hi everyone. Today we will be speaking regarding World Blood Cancer Day. September month is celebrated as Blood Cancer Awareness Month, and today September 15th is a Lymphoma Cancer Awareness Month. So initially, whenever we start regarding the blood cancer, broadly it could be of three types: acute leukemia, chronic leukemias and myelomas. When it comes to acute leukemias, it can be either acute myelocytic leukemia or acute lymphocytic leukemia, or lymphoblastic leukemia we call it as AML and ALL. When it comes to chronic leukemias, we have got two types of cancers. One is chronic myeloid leukemia and one is chronic lymphocytic leukemia. And the third type of cancer, especially when it comes to the blood cancers, is myeloma. So initially, whenever we discuss blood cancers, first let us deal about how do they present. The most common symptoms with which the blood cancers present, especially acute leukemia's presence, is fever, generalized body weakness, decreased platelets, anemia, and the symptoms because of the increased WBC, that is like leukostasis, and sometimes they do present with fevers and joint pains. Whenever you suspect a case of acute leukemia, the first thing what we need to do is to get a CBP and a peripheral smear. So normally this is the first investigation that we order whenever we are suspecting a case of acute leukemia. And when we suspect this, first thing what we do is a peripheral smear. For example, in a peripheral smear, if we have got blasts, then the percentage of the blast is most important, and if there are more than 20% blasts, then we call it as acute leukemia. The second most important investigations whenever we have a acute leukemia is confirmation of acute leukemia by a test called as flow cytometry. So in this flow cytometry, we confirm the type of leukemia, whether it is a AML or ALL. Once this type of leukemia is confirmed, that is whether it is a AML or ALL, the third most important thing with respect to the investigation part is characterization, because in blood cancers, especially in acute leukemias, we don't have stages like stage 1, 2, 3, 4, which we usually see in solid tumors. In blood cancers, that is acute leukemia, what we need to see once the diagnosis is confirmed is whether it is a good risk, intermediate risk or poor risk. This intermediate risk, good risk and poor risk can be known from tests called as cytogenetics and molecular. This is regarding the acute leukemias. So majority of the times these acute leukemias are initially treated with chemotherapy, and if it is a good risk or an intermediate risk, nearly 60% of the patients do respond to high dose chemotherapy, and post which we give something called as consolidation or a maintenance. Especially when it comes to the AML, which is acute myeloid leukemia, we give initially induction chemotherapy, which is followed by 3 cycles of consolidation therapy. And if it is a AML and that is of high risk, usually these patients require bone marrow transplantation. The total duration of treatment for an acute myeloid leukemia is approximately 6 months. Whereas in the second category of acute leukemia, that is ALL, the commonly the most common regimen what we use is, we call it as BFM regimen, and the treatment is total duration of 2 years, that is induction for a period of 1 month, then consolidation, and then maintenance. Maintenance in an acute ALL is approximately 2 years duration. Then comes to the chronic leukemias. In chronic leukemias, we have got two types of chronic leukemias. One is CLL and CML. Majority of the times, with the contrary to the acute leukemias, this chronic leukemias present with an indolent behavior. Half of the patients give the history that they have gone to a comprehensive health checkup, and incidentally they have found to have increased WBC counts. So whenever they do find these type of symptoms with increased WBC counts, they are referred to hemato-oncologists, and hence they will be further investigated future. In general, these chronic myeloid leukemias and chronic lymphocytic leukemia, CML and CLL can be just treated with oral medications. CML can be treated with a variety of tablets like first generation TKI or a second generation TKI like imatinib, dasatinib, nilotinib, and even in other type of chronic leukemia, that is CLL, we do treat with oral medications. That we have got multiple oral medications now. We call it as targeted therapy, like the drugs like ibrutinib, acalabrutinib. Like we have got multiple drugs that will increase the chance. One question we do have got, does the increase of sweet intake will cause cancer? This is one of the most common myth what we see, what we hear among our patients, and there are multiple number of patients studies which have proven that there is no relation between cancer and increase in sugar intake. That is one of the commonest myth. So to conclude, there is no relation of cancer and increase in sugar intake. Next, the most important thing what we should see is third type of variety of cancers, which is called as myeloma. The most commonly this tumor arises from cells called as plasma cells. In general, they present with back pain, anemia, increase in creatinine, increase in calcium. Majority of the times they do get referred to us either from a nephrologist, that is a kidney specialist, in view of increased creatinine, or sometimes they do come to us from orthopedic doctors in view of back pain. So one should be aware, like any middle-aged or elderly female, if is having persistent back pain unexplained and is having multiple fractures, and on examination if they have either anemia or hypercalcemia, that is increase in calcium, or increase in creatinine levels, or multiple bone fractures, we call it as crab features, that is hypercalcemia, renal failure, that is increase in creatinine, anemia, that is decrease in hemoglobin, and bone problems. So whenever we do have these kind of features, we suspect something called as multiple myeloma. So when we suspect multiple myeloma, the first thing what we usually do is a blood test, which is called as serum protein electrophoresis, in which we see something called as monoclonal band, that is otherwise called as M band. Whenever we have an M band or a monoclonal band, to confirm the nature of the same and to demonstrate the plasma cells in the bone marrow, we do a test called as bone marrow aspiration and biopsy. And once the bone marrow aspiration and biopsy also shows the plasma cells increase which are monoclonal, then the diagnosis of multiple myeloma can be confirmed. So unlike the acute leukemias, the chronic leukemias and myelomas, they do have a indolent behavior, they do slowly progress. And the most important treatment for myeloma, the curative treatment for multiple myeloma is stem cell transplant, which we call it as autologous transplant, and post-induction chemotherapy, that is bortezomib, cyclophosphamide and dexa, the commonly used regimen, either VCD or VRD, the most commonly used regimen. After 4 cycles of chemotherapy, we do assess for the bone marrow response, and if they have got good response, we treat with them with a curative option like autologous stem cell transplant. This is all regarding the acute leukemias, chronic leukemias and myelomas. And now let us proceed with something called as lymphoma. As we know, September 15th is World Lymphoma Awareness Day, and one of the most curable and treatable malignancies with respect to blood cancers is lymphoma. And when it comes to the lymphoma, it is broadly classified into 2 types, that is Hodgkin's lymphoma and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Whenever we diagnose a case of Hodgkin's or a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, the most important confirmatory test for the diagnosis is a test called as biopsy. Whenever we ask for a patient for a biopsy, majority of the patients do have a concerns or myth. The most common question what they ask is, by doing a biopsy, will my cancer increase? I am repeating it multiple times and again. The most important test to confirm any type of malignancy is biopsy, and by doing a biopsy, the cancer does not spread. This is one of the most commonly asked questions from our patients, so I am reiterating again and again. Once the biopsy is done and the lymphoma is diagnosed, to characterize the type of lymphoma, whether it's a Hodgkin's or non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And in non-Hodgkin's there are multiple types like follicular lymphoma, mantle lymphoma, Burkitt's lymphoma. So once the lymphoma is diagnosed and characterized either as a Hodgkin's or a non-Hodgkin's, the next important thing is to do subclassification, because the treatment differs from the type of lymphoma. For this subclassification of lymphomas, what we commonly do a test called as IHC. This is called as immunohistochemistry, wherein which we classify the lymphoma into various subtypes. As we have confirmed the diagnosis with biopsy and subtyped with IHC, the second most important investigation once the lymphoma is diagnosed is staging. Majority of the lymphomas involve as a staging workup. Two most commonly investigations are, one is bone marrow aspiration and biopsy, and the second one is PET scan. Commonly, majority of the lymphomas are high grade and they do have an uptake of FDG. So hence, except in few types of low grade indolent lymphomas like CLL and follicular lymphomas, nearly 70 to 80% of the lymphomas, the staging investigation of choice would be PET scan, that is whole body FDG PET scan. And once you have confirmed as a stage 3 or stage 4 based on the PET scan, the next important investigation what we usually do is bone marrow aspiration and biopsy, because majority of these lymphomas, they do involve the bone marrow. And once these two investigations are over, that is PET scan and the bone marrow aspiration and biopsy, especially in DLBCL, there are some patients wherein which the risk of metastasis to the CNS is high. Then we calculate something called as CNS IPI score, and if CNS IPI score is high, then we give a CNS prophylaxis. So now coming to the third step. First is confirmation of diagnosis is by biopsy. Second is subclassification by IHC. Third is staging workup. Staging is by bone marrow aspiration and biopsy and PET scan. Once you have done first three steps, the most important one is the fourth one, that is treatment. Now with the modern available treatments like chemotherapy, immunotherapy, targeted therapy and the radiation therapy, the cure rates of lymphoma can be as high as 90%. For example, if you see a Hodgkin's lymphoma with a simple chemotherapy, that is ABVD chemotherapy, the cure rates is as high as 90%. Whereas with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, there are multiple varieties of chemotherapies wherein which we use chemo-immunotherapy combination, that is R-CHOP. So now, having covered the basic aspects like how to differentiate whether it's an acute leukemia or a chronic leukemia, then once how to diagnose a myeloma, next we have seen how to diagnose a Hodgkin's or a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Once the lymphoma is confirmed, what to do. Now let us take few questions which we have already got in the comment section, and later I will be discussing some of the most common myths among the patients, what do they have and how to go about. The first question what we have got is blood cancer curable completely? Yes, majority of the times it depends on the type of lymphoma or type of leukemia. For example, if it is chronic leukemias like CML and CLL, chronic myeloid leukemia can be treated with a simple tablet. There is no need of injection chemotherapy, and very rarely we do require bone marrow transplant in a case of CML. Not all patients of leukemias or blood cancers require transplant, because this is one of the most common fear among many patients, that once the blood cancer is diagnosed, the lifespan is less than 6 months and 9 months. That is not the case nowadays. With the availability of majority of the drugs, we can expect the lifespan as high as around 90 to 95%. The second most common thing is blood cancer transmitted from one person to other. In fact, with respect to the other cancers like solid tumors, the hereditary cancers when compared to the blood cancers are very less. So these usually blood cancer do not spread from one to other or in the families. we see majority of the times in children blood cancers. What are the reasons? So what are the most common reasons for blood cancer? This is one of the questions we have got. So example, for a solid tumors, we have got multiple reasons. Like for example, breast cancer, the most common reason being hormonal therapy or lack of breastfeeding or usage of OC pills. When it comes to the lung cancer, we do have the causes like smoking, and for majority of the other cancers like solid tumor cancers, we have smoking and alcohol as a most common risk factor. But when it comes to the blood cancers, nearly 80 to 90% of the blood cancers are idiopathic, majority of the times without any identifiable cause. Some of the proposed risk factors like exposure to the chemotherapy for any other reasons, or exposure to some pesticides, chemicals and dyes. These are some of the few reasons, and few lymphomas can be caused through the infections. For example, EBV virus can cause sometimes Hodgkin's lymphoma and sometimes nasopharyngeal cancer, and few varieties of non-Hodgkin's lymphomas. And apart from that, there are some HTLV virus which can cause T-cell lymphoma. So if broadly 70 to 75% of the blood cancer cases, we do not know the proper reason. 5 to 10% of them can be caused because of the viruses, and 5 to 10% because of the chemicals. Is blood cancer contagious? No, the blood cancer is not contagious. In fact, no cancer is contagious. It does not spread from person to person. This is one of the most common myth. Once the blood cancer therapy or any cancer treatment is going on, majority of them do ask post completion of therapy, can they have a normal reproductive life, or does it spread from one partner to the other? Definitely the cancers do not spread from one partner to the other, except a few of the cancers wherein which HPV associated virus, like cervical cancer and all, these also are not associated with transmission from one person to other, but they are associated with if you are having a multiple sexual partners or HPV virus infection. Now coming to the next question, what would be the approximate cost for the treatment of a blood cancer? So this is a very broad question. The problem here is the cost depends on the type of cancer. For example, if you if you consider a case of chronic myeloid leukemia, that is a CML, which is a type of blood cancer, the monthly therapy of the cost could be as low as 3,000 to 4,000. Whereas if you are dealing with an acute myeloid leukemia, AML, the induction therapy might cost you around 50,000 to 1 lakh, whereas the bone marrow transplant can cost you up to around 5 lakhs. And what is the bone marrow transplant? How is it done? And what are the types of it? Good question. So basically, bone marrow transplant is one of the curative options for majority of the difficult to treat blood cancers. Majority of these blood cancers are initially treated with chemotherapy or targeted therapy or chemoimmunotherapy combination. But if the disease is resistant to these therapies, or if the disease comes back after the completion of therapy, then the treatment of choice for majority of them is bone marrow transplant. This bone marrow transplant, as many people do consider, this is not an invasive surgery or a big procedure. Bone marrow transplant is of two types. One is autologous bone marrow transplant. Second one is allogenic bone marrow transplant. So as we know, the blood cancers arises from something called as hematopoietic stem cells. In autologous stem cell transplant, what we do is we kill the cancer cells by giving the high dose of chemotherapy. Especially if you see multiple myeloma, the most common indication wherein which we usually do autologous transplant, that is multiple myeloma, we use a drug called as melphalan and kill the cancer cells. Once the cancer cells are died because of high dose chemotherapy, we, by a procedure called as plasmapheresis, we collect the stem cells from the patient, that is patient's own stem cells. We either cryopreserve them or collect and reinfuse them back once we are sure that the entire cancer cells are killed. This stem cell transfusion is similar to that of blood transfusion, wherein which the stem cells are collected, thawed and separated by using a machine and are infused back into a patient. If we are using the patient's one's own stem cells, we call this as autologous stem cell transplant. And here this is majority of the times do not have major complications which are usually seen with allogenic stem cell transplant. In allogenic stem cell transplant, especially what we do in leukemias and ALL, which is AML and ALL, here the stem cells of the patients themselves are the culprits. What we usually do is we give the high dose chemotherapy for the patient and kill the cancer cells, and we do collect the stem cells from the donor. The donor could be either a sibling of a patient, or mother or father, or sometimes can be far away person. So whenever we are collecting stem cells, we do something called as HLA matching. Just like we have a blood group, we do also have a HLA thing on our cells, RBC cells and WBC cells. What we usually do is, whenever we are planning for an allogenic bone marrow transplant, we do something called as HLA match. Suppose if a HLA match is there, HLA match stem cells can be are there, then we collect them and we infuse them after giving a high dose chemotherapy. This is called as allogenic stem cell transplant. This is in a small way I have described. This allogenic stem cells can be collected from the patient's sibling or their parents, that is mother and father, or their kith and kin. If there is no full match, then we can collect the stem cells from the donor, unregistered donor. Like they have got multiple registries wherein which the people can donate the stem cells. What is the cost of transplant? So the cost of the transplant, as I said, depends on the type of transplant. For example, if it is an autologous transplant, the cost can be as high as 5 to 6 lakhs, and if it is allogenic transplant, it can be as high as 12 to 15 lakhs. So these are a few of the questions that have been asked in the comment section, and if you have got any further questions, then we would take. Before ending my talk, the common myths, common symptoms and common treatments, I'll be telling it and then concluding the session. First thing, when do we suspect a blood cancer is the first commonly asked question, and as a part of Blood Cancer Awareness Month, one should be aware of these symptoms. If these symptoms are present, he should be suspecting a blood cancer. 1. Unexplained fever for a long period of time. Unexplained fever for a long period of time. Fever, weight loss, and most importantly is unexplained cytopenias. Like for example, if you are having anemia, thrombocytopenia without any cause for a long period of time, and especially in children, sometimes we usually have swelling of lymph nodes, that is we call it as lymphadenopathy, and these patients do have something called as constitutional symptoms like weight loss, decreased appetite, and drenching night sweat. So whenever somebody is having the above mentioned symptoms, one should suspect blood cancer. But all these symptoms can be seen in variety of infections. That's why I am telling unexplained. If you are trying to find out the cause and trying to evaluate the common causes, and once the common causes are ruled out, in spite of this, if you are having these symptoms, then you should suspect a blood cancer. Next thing, what is the first common investigation that one should do whenever one is suspecting a blood cancer? Because majority of the patients do ask, is there any screening test for blood cancers? Because in our family, my parents had blood cancer, or one of our distant relatives have blood cancer. Do I have a chance of getting a risk, or can I do any blood test to know am I prone to develop blood cancer? Unfortunately, for blood cancer we do not have a screening test. For all other cancers like prostate cancer, ovary cancer, and other cancers, we do have a breast cancer, we do have a screening test. But for blood cancers, we usually do not have a screening test. But the minimum investigation one should do if you are having an unexplained symptoms which I have mentioned previously, the basic investigation is CBP with a peripheral smear. The first thing, when you see a CBP and once you have a peripheral smear, if you are finding any abnormal cells like blast cells, then you need to do further investigations like flow cytometry and bone marrow test. We have got one question in the chat. is bone marrow test painful and how is the procedure done? Majority of the times patient do get confused with bone marrow test and bone marrow transplantation. Bone marrow aspiration and biopsy is not a painful procedure. It is done under local anesthesia as a simple OPD procedure. It takes 5 to 10 minutes. In this test, what we usually do is we collect the blood from the bones and we also take some small part of the bone marrow for a biopsy. It is not a painful procedure, and with simple analgesics for a day or two, the pain subsides. But this is one of the most important investigations to confirm the blood cancer. So now let us move forward with the discussion. So we have discussed what are the common signs and symptoms. Next, what is the basic investigation one should do whenever we suspect a blood cancer. And the most important thing is, whenever blood cancer is diagnosed, the most commonly asked question is, what is the stage? And I am reminding you again and again, majority of the blood cancers except for the lymphomas and myelomas, acute leukemias do not have the stage because blood circulates in the entire body. Whenever the blood cancer is known, first thing what we need to see, especially in an acute leukemia, the risk category, whether it's a good risk, intermediate risk and poor risk, because it is important from the prognostication point of view and a treatment point of view. For example, if it's a high risk blood cancer, that is acute myeloid leukemia, post chemotherapy the disease comes down, but if you are not going for a transplant, it relapses back. So this is regarding an acute leukemias. Now we have got one question: what are the latest treatments available in case of blood cancers? This is a vast question, depends on the type of cancer. If it is a lymphoma, we do have got newer targeted therapies like CD20 inhibitors, and when the disease comes back even after the transplant, are there any options? Yes, nowadays we do also have an options like immunotherapy and CAR T cell therapy, which are coming newly. These are few of the questions. Yeah, one question in the chat box, what we got is how to follow up after the completion of treatment for a case of lymphoma. Yeah, this is one of the most important thing, because majority of the times patients, while on active chemotherapy or targeted therapy, they come for a treatment, and once the treatment is over, maybe after a period of 3 months to 6 months, we do something called as end of treatment scan, especially in a case of lymphoma, that is a PET scan, and then see if the disease is in CR, then we might keep them under observation or maintenance. For any lymphomas, for majority of the lymphomas, the chance of disease coming back is highest in the first 2 to 3 years. Hence, we ask the patients to come back every 3 months for the physical examination, and if the physical examination which is done by the doctor shows any abnormal results, abnormal findings like swelling in the lymph nodes coming back again, or if the patient is having the fever, weight loss that he had initially, if he is having those symptoms again, then we do something called as surveillance PET scan, and if the PET scan shows any other sites of disease, then we confirm whether this is a reoccurrence of a cancer by biopsy, and if it is a reoccurrence, we need to retreat it. These are the questions that we have got in the chat box. If any further questions, I would be happy to take. If no further questions, then we can end the discussion. Thank you viewers who have watched on live and who have posted the questions through WhatsApp and FB and comment section. If there are no further questions, then we would end the session. If you did not see the live and post which, if you have seen the video, if you have got further questions, I would be happy to take. I would be answering in the comment section. Thank you one and all, and spread the awareness to all that blood cancer is not a death sentence nowadays. We have got highest cure rates when compared to the other types of cancers, and especially today, September 15th, is a lymphoma awareness day. If you diagnose the lymphomas on time and if you take the proper treatment, the cure rates can be as high as 70 to 80%. Thank you all.